Somewhere off the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, just beneath the surface of warm, sunlit water, something is drifting. The water around it is crystal clear, catching the light in long golden shafts that reach down toward the sandy floor below. And floating right there in the middle of all that light is a creature so small and so transparent that you could swim directly through it without ever knowing it was there. Its bell-shaped body catches the current like a tiny parachute, no wider than your pinky nail. Through its completely see-through skin, a vivid red stomach glows at its center like a small, burning coal. 90 thread-like white tentacles trail behind it, barely disturbing the water as it moves. It looks like a ghost drifting through liquid light. It looks like almost nothing at all. But this tiny, nearly invisible creature drifting silently through the sunlit shallows is the only animal on Earth that has genuinely and biologically conquered death. And it has been doing it for millions of years, long before the first dinosaur ever walked on land. What you are about to learn will change the way you understand life itself, beginning with a discovery so strange and so unexpected that the scientists who made it could barely believe what they were seeing. This creature is called Turritopsis dohrnii, and its story does not begin with scientists in state-of-the-art laboratories or million-dollar research grants. It begins with 2 marine biology students and a glass jar of seawater sitting on a table in the Mediterranean Sea in the 1980s. Christian Summer and Giorgio Bavistrello had collected samples of these tiny jellyfish from the waters near Genoa, Italy, and were keeping them in jars to observe their development. They expected the adult jellyfish to mature normally, reproduce, and eventually die the way all jellyfish do. That was the plan. That was the biology. Then they came back to check on their specimens and found that the adults had vanished. In their place were tiny juvenile polyps attached to the glass at the bottom of the jar. The jellyfish had not died. They had not been replaced. The fully grown adults had somehow transformed themselves backward into children. Every rule of biology says that is impossible. Every multicellular animal on Earth moves through its life cycle in one direction only, forward, from birth through growth to death. Except this one. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community when it was eventually published. The species itself had first been documented back in 1883, and for a full century, nobody had noticed anything extraordinary about it. It took one accidental observation in a lab jar to reveal that this creature had been quietly cheating death the entire time. By the 1990s, marine zoologist Stefano Piraino at the University of Salento had confirmed the process in controlled conditions, and the scientific world finally had a name for what they were looking at: biological immortality. But having a name for something is very different from understanding it, and the question that took decades longer to answer, the one that changes everything when you truly grasp it, is what is actually happening inside that tiny, transparent body when it reverses its own aging. To understand that, you first need to understand the biological path that every jellyfish on Earth normally follows, so you can appreciate just how completely this one breaks away from it. A typical jellyfish begins its life as a fertilized egg, which develops into a free-swimming larva called a planula. That planula eventually drifts down to the seafloor and attaches to a hard surface, a rock, a dock piling, or the hull of a ship, and grows into a colony of polyps. Those polyps then bud off tiny free-swimming medusae, which are the bell-shaped creatures we recognize as jellyfish. The medusae grow to adulthood in a matter of weeks, reproduce, and in almost every known species, they then die. That is the end of the road. That is the biological contract that every animal on Earth has signed. Turritopsis dohrnii tears up that contract completely. When this jellyfish faces starvation, serious injury, extreme temperature changes, or simply the pressure of old age, it does not continue forward toward death. Instead, its bell begins to contract and fold inward. Its tentacles start to deteriorate and pull back toward the body. The jellyfish sinks slowly toward the seafloor, and its entire body collapses into a compact blob of tissue called a cyst. A small, unstructured ball of raw biological material that looks like nothing more than a tiny smear of jelly pressed against the sand. And then, something extraordinary begins to happen inside that blob. The cells start transforming. Muscle cells convert into nerve cells. Skin cells convert into reproductive cells. Cells that spent their entire existence specialized for one purpose dissolve that identity entirely and become something completely different. This process is called transdifferentiation, and the simplest way to understand it is to imagine a fully grown butterfly somehow melting back into a caterpillar, rebuilding its cocoon from the inside and emerging as a brand new butterfly, genetically identical to what it was before, with a full life ahead of it, ready to start again from the very beginning. Within just a few days, a new polyp colony forms from that blob of tissue. Within weeks, new medusae bud from those polyps. The jellyfish has returned to the first stage of its life cycle, with no apparent limit to how many times it can repeat this process. At the Seto Marine Biological Laboratory of Kyoto University in Japan, Professor Shin Kubota has spent decades caring for the world's only known long-term captive population of Turritopsis dohrnii. He feeds them sliced brine shrimp eggs with a pair of fine-point needles every single day, monitors their health every morning, and observes their movement with the kind of meticulous attention that most people reserve for something far larger and more dramatic than a creature the size of a pinky nail. During one documented 2-year study, his colony reversed its life cycle and began again 11 times. Kubota, who has also written and performed songs about the jellyfish at scientific conferences around the world, calls it the most miraculous species in the entire animal kingdom. It is very difficult to argue with him. For years, scientists understood what was happening in general terms. But the deeper question, the one that carries the most profound implications for all of us, was why? What sits inside this creature's genome that makes this biologically possible? And it was not until 2022 that the answer finally came. And when it did, what researchers found inside the jellyfish's DNA had never been seen in any other known animal on Earth. In 2022, a team of researchers from the University of Oviedo in Spain published a landmark study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world. They had done something that had never been done before. They sequenced and compared the complete genome of Turritopsis dohrnii side by side with its closest known relative, Turritopsis rubra, a jellyfish that looks almost identical but cannot reverse its aging at all. What they found was extraordinary. The immortal jellyfish carries expanded and unusually active genes across several categories that correspond directly to the biological drivers of aging in all animals, including humans. Its genes associated with DNA repair are significantly more active than in its mortal relative. Its genes responsible for managing oxidative stress, the cellular damage that accumulates in all living organisms over time, show the same pattern of enhancement. its stem cell population is maintained at a level of flexibility that should not exist in an adult organism. But the most significant discovery involved telomeres. Telomeres are the protective caps found at the end of every chromosome in every living cell, and they function like the plastic tips on the end of a shoelace. They prevent the chromosome from fraying and deteriorating with each cell division. In humans and virtually all other animals, telomeres shorten every single time a cell divides. That shortening is one of the primary biological mechanisms of aging. When telomeres become too short, cells stop dividing correctly, tissues begin to degrade, and the body starts to fail. It is a countdown built into every cell you have ever had. Turritopsis dohrnii does not follow this countdown. During the reversal process, the jellyfish activates genes that maintain and repair its telomeres, effectively resetting the cellular aging clock back to zero. At the same time, it activates genes associated with pluripotency, the state of complete cellular flexibility found only in embryonic stem cells, while silencing the genes that normally lock adult cells permanently into their specialized roles. It does not simply grow younger, it biologically reprograms itself at the molecular level in real time, without any external intervention whatsoever. The 2022 research team described this as unlike anything previously documented in an adult animal. The immortal jellyfish is not bending the rules of biology. It has rewritten them entirely. And here is where the story takes a turn that almost nobody has fully reckoned with. Because while scientists were mapping this creature's genome, something else was quietly happening in oceans all around the world. Turritopsis dohrnii is not only found in the Mediterranean Sea, where it was first discovered. It is now present in every major ocean on the planet: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, the coastal waters of Japan, the shores of Panama and Florida, and marine biologist Dr. Maria Pia Miglietta of Texas and M University at Galveston discovered something deeply unsettling when she analyzed the DNA of specimens collected from all these locations. They were genetically identical. Jellyfish from Japan, and jellyfish from Italy, and jellyfish from the Pacific coast of Panama shared the exact same genetic profile, which is biologically impossible if they had dispersed naturally through ocean currents over thousands of years. Natural dispersal across those distances would have produced measurable genetic variation between populations. There was none. The conclusion was clear and striking. This was not natural migration. These jellyfish had been carried around the world by human activity, specifically by the ballast water of large cargo ships. When a cargo ship takes on water for stability in one port, it can pull in thousands of these tiny jellyfish along with it. During the long ocean crossing, conditions inside the ballast tanks become deeply stressful. Cold, dark, oxygen depleted, and cramped. For any other organism, this would be a death sentence. For Turritopsis dohrnii, it is simply a trigger. The jellyfish reverses its life cycle inside the ballast tank, survives the entire ocean crossing in its juvenile polyp form, and when the ship pumps out its ballast water at the destination port, it emerges in a brand new ocean, in a brand new body, ready to begin again. Dr. Miglietta called it a silent invasion. Unlike other invasive species that arrive and immediately begin disrupting ecosystems in visible ways, this jellyfish is so small and so biologically neutral in its new environments that its global spread went entirely undetected for decades. The creature that cannot die turned out to also be the creature that cannot be contained. It is already everywhere. And the reason that matters goes far beyond ecology. Understanding what this jellyfish carries in its genome is not just a matter of biological curiosity. Researchers studying Turritopsis dohrnii are now investigating potential applications across 3 areas of medicine that affect the lives of virtually every person on Earth. The first is aging science. The telomere maintenance mechanisms that allow this jellyfish to reset its cellular clock offer researchers a working biological model of how an organism can preserve and repair its chromosomal integrity across an indefinite number of life cycles. Scientists studying age-related conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and cardiovascular deterioration are increasingly focused on understanding how telomere shortening accelerates these conditions. And this jellyfish provides a living reference point that no synthetic laboratory experiment can fully replicate. The second is cancer research. The same telomerase activity that allows the jellyfish to extend and maintain its telomeres indefinitely is also a defining characteristic of cancer cells in the human body. Cancer cells become effectively immortal by hijacking this same mechanism. They maintain their telomeres when they should not, allowing them to divide without limit and grow uncontrollably. Understanding how Turritopsis dohrnii controls this process in a regulated, precise, and non-destructive way could offer new insights into why cancer cells escape normal cellular controls, and how that escape might one day be interrupted. The third is regenerative medicine. Transdifferentiation, the direct conversion of one specialized adult cell into a completely different type of specialized adult cell, is something scientists have been working to understand and replicate in human tissue for a very long time. The ability to reprogram damaged cells into healthy, functional ones without the logistical and ethical complications associated with embryonic stem cells would represent a fundamental shift in how degenerative diseases are approached. The jellyfish performs this reprogramming automatically, efficiently, and repeatedly in response to nothing more than environmental stress. To be honest with you, these applications are not arriving next year. Translating discoveries from an organism this biologically simple into therapies for a body as complex as a human being is a challenge that will require generations of research if it proves achievable at all. But the fact that the molecular mechanisms behind these processes exist and function in a living animal, observable, sequenceable, and now fully genomically mapped, gives researchers a foundation they simply did not have before. And that foundation begins with understanding the creature itself, drifting somewhere out there in warm ocean water right now, completely unaware of what it represents. Turritopsis dohrnii is still out there right now, in warm, shallow harbors across the Mediterranean, in the ballast tanks of cargo ships crossing open oceans in the dark, in quiet coastal waters off the shores of Japan and Florida and Panama. It is drifting, pulsing gently through sunlit water, its red stomach glowing through its transparent bell, its white tentacles trailing softly in the current. It has no brain. It carries no awareness of what it represents or what it has triggered in laboratories across the world. It does not know that its genome sits on hard drives at universities in Spain and Japan, being studied by researchers who believe it may hold answers to the oldest questions in medicine. It does not know that cargo ships have carried it to every ocean on the planet without anyone noticing for decades. It simply drifts. And when the time comes, when the cold sharpens, or the food disappears, or the body begins to fail, it does what it has always done. It goes back to the beginning. It starts over, completely, biologically, and without hesitation. It has been doing this since before our species existed. It may still be doing it, long after we are gone. And somewhere in the space between what this animal is and what we still do not understand about it, there is a question that no scientist has fully answered yet. If a creature with no brain, no heartbeat, and no awareness of its own existence can rewrite the biological rules of death, what else about the nature of life have we fundamentally misunderstood? There is one other creature living in these same oceans that researchers believe may carry equally profound biological secrets, not about immortality, but about something just as strange, just as unexplained, and just as deeply connected to what we think we know about the limits of life. That is where we are going next. If this video made you see the ocean differently, there is a lot more where that came from. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss what we uncover next. Because the ocean is full of creatures that should not exist, and we are just getting started.